today. What I love about Denise, all of you who've heard me before have said that, heard me say that, she's got a really powerful intellect and clarity of mind and deep authenticity, with which she translates deep spiritual truths really into everyday practical living. So without more ado, let's give a very warm welcome to Baba's special angel and agent, Denise Lawrence. And all of you sit back, relax. Over to you, Denise. Enjoy this morning.
Thank you so much, Madhavi. Well, it's delightful to be with all of you again, and it's a really beautiful gathering of brothers and sisters from all over the world. And after COVID, we're all getting gradually able to see one another again, but a lot of us are very used to Zoom, and with petrol prices being what they are, I think this is going to continue so that we have easy access to each other using our devices and computers and all that. So, faith and courage as you move into a new level of your life. And I think this is really a very important thing that all of us have been experiencing. The COVID lockdown started pretty much at the time when Daddy Janki left the body. And, she is an incredibly powerful instrument of Shiv Baba. And when a person of that caliber transitions from the material world and begins to do her work from the Avyakt stage, then I think Bap Dada's energy and reach is in some ways amplified. So I think that there are lots of things going on in the subtle aspect of existence that are not directly known to us, but I think that mostly everyone can feel it. And we're getting many, many messages as time goes by of people who are very powerful yogis moving on to the Avyakt stage. Of course, they're reincarnating, but Baba can always pull the soul in the subtle body of the angelic form of the Brahmin body, and people have experiences, and service through the mind is done through that also. But these are deep and mysterious things that not everybody can explain, but definitely we feel. And last night I had a dream of Didi Manmohini. Not very many people would have met her, but she was, along with Daddy Prakashmani, up until 1983 when she left the body, but she was the big, powerful, philosophical yogi who continued with the yagya after Brahma Baba's passing, and she was a very, very important soul in the yagya for the whole of her life. So I think that what's happening for many of us is we are feeling things are changing. Bap Dada is no longer coming through Dadi Gulzar. The Dadis are almost all gone to their next stage, and so many of the original jewels from the Western world. Sister Dolly from Greece was a very, very important instrument in the West. She just passed on, and really, these are all signs that times are changing. Climate change is really now fully accepted. The war in Ukraine, and so many refugees who are having to suddenly and violently find themselves in other parts of the world where they don't necessarily know anyone. And so it's a very unstable time. And it feels to me that from Baba's angle, I mean, Baba is the Supreme Father, the Supreme Teacher, the Supreme Satguru. And we have had many, many years with Baba, the Father, and the Teacher. And a time comes in one's life when the education part of our life and all of the care and attention and love that all of us received from the seniors, the dadis, sustenance from Baba, all of that is now part of our spiritual childhood and adolescence, we can say. And I think these changes mean that all of us are in a new phase of our spiritual practice and our spiritual development. One of the things that I have been hearing from different people in my contact is that they are experiencing challenges, not just external challenges, but internal challenges, challenges to the yoga, challenges to how they feel about themselves. And this is really a very important thing that is connected with faith, you see. There are the four forms of faith that Baba had talked to us about: faith in the self, faith in Baba, faith in drama, and faith in the family. But we also have to experience our levels of faith in different ways as circumstances change. And so a lot of people have had to be self-reliant. And I think that when a person becomes adult, they have to be self-reliant. And that means you move into your own life from your parents and siblings. You move into your own life from your educational alma mater, and you're on your own, and you have to face the world and find your place in it, and find yourself in a new way. So faith in the self is really a very powerful thing. And we have to look at faith in contrast with doubt. And it is the case for many people that you are not stable all the time. If a person is stable all the time, they're karmatit, and we are in the process of becoming karmatit. So every so often there will be internal feelings or external circumstances which are destabilizing. And the sign of Raj Yoga is to stay stable in destabilizing circumstances. And there are no holes barred in the spiritual war. Sometimes Baba talks to us about being spiritual warriors. We are children, students, actors, but we're also spiritual warriors. And when you go into battle against Maya and Ravan, then what you're fighting is how you relate to what you are perceiving. And you perceive everything in your mind, whether you perceive it through your sense organs or whether you perceive it just directly in your mind. It's still all occurring in your mind. And when you're soul conscious, you're more aware that it's all going on in the mind. And so we have to have a very good relationship with this concept that things are happening in my mind. we have contact with the material world through our sense organs, but the way that we deal with it, how we feel about it, that depends on us. And all of these experiences exist in our mind, although they may seem to exist externally. Baba's teachings are that they are actually going on in the mind. And he wants us more and more and more to understand what soul consciousness is, which means there's nothing like males and females. And so when you are body conscious, then you can revert easily to a mentality or state of being where you were, you can say, conditioned to be limited by being male or female, by what color your body is, by what your social position is, your how you are perceived in the world. And I think a person's position is really a very, very powerful influence to the person. And even we have our lokic position, and we have an alokik position, because we are in the Brahman family. We may be older or younger than someone. We may be in a position of greater or lesser responsibility than someone. And position influences how you perceive yourself and how other people perceive you. And how other people perceive you is a kind of projection. And you have to see to what extent you are influenced by projection that other people project onto you. And this is why I think it's very important that Baba says, no matter what's going on, you're experiencing it in your mind, and your mind is your creation. How you use your mind is up to you. So it's very important to distinguish between yourself and what you're experiencing in your mind, between yourself and what people project on you, whether it comes from the alokik world or whether it comes from the lokic world. It is a very powerful influence, and Raj Yoga, to a very large extent, is all about becoming progressively completely independent of external influences, and that is called freedom. And Baba talks to us about our inheritance, and one way of thinking about our inheritance is that he gives us freedom, mukti, freedom, and jivan mukti, freedom in life. That means what? You're free to be yourself regardless of how strongly external and internal influences want to bring you into chains. And some of the chains are karmic accounts, so we do need to become free from our karmic accounts. And we have to also have faith that I am not my karmic accounts. My karmic accounts, they're my bills that I have to pay, but they're not me, So your sense of identity comes into question. And the basic question that Baba asks us at the beginning, through the middle, and all the way to the end is, who are you? Who am I? And just saying I am a soul is just the first step. Which soul? What does it mean to be a soul? What does it mean to lose consciousness that you're a soul? What is really body consciousness? It's not just the five vices. No, it's very deep, it's very subtle. And our study is continuous all the way to the end. But we're not necessarily going to be in the comfortable environment of the educational setting. And I think the time of isolation and not being able to go to centers and so on that happened during COVID was also a very good preparation. And the reality of much greater expensive life. Many news media say, okay, now we're in a war economy, everything will be more expensive, there will be shortages, you will not be able to get what you need or enjoy the ease of life that you have had. Now things are getting difficult, but it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you when things are not as easy as they used to be. Even when it comes to your practice of meditation, even when it comes to the settlement of karmic account that may happen through illness or through loss of money or loss of position or people rejecting you or any of the things that come. These are tests, these are karmic accounts, and all of these are tests of faith. And that's very interesting to think about, that all this is testing me so that I can find out, do I have faith in myself? And in the Murli today, Baba said, look, I'm on one side and everyone else is on the other side. But Shiv Baba knows himself, has perfect faith in himself, and he says, you are mine, you have to become like me. That means we must have faith in the sense of identity that he gives us. And identity is a very important element in development of faith. And I'm speaking in this session very specially about faith in the self, because I think a lot of people say, well, yes, I have faith in Baba, I have faith in drama, I have faith in the family, or maybe I don't, but faith in myself, that wavers, because self-doubt comes, and am I really what Baba says, or is he talking about somebody else? Because you're very aware of your shortcomings, you're very aware that you're not perfect, you're very aware that you can't do all the things that Baba says you should do or you should be able to do. And when you look at these things, this can make you lose faith in yourself. And when you don't have faith in yourself, then you cannot be victorious. And victorious is a very important experience that keeps you moving forward. And if you don't have faith in yourself, then you do things which cause you to fail, because it's a mentality. It's nothing to do with facts, it's all to do with perception and positioning of yourself towards yourself, and it's to do with what you know, not as a sort of scientific fact, but what you know internally. You say, okay, Baba is always with me. But then if you think maybe Baba's with somebody else and not with me, then that would immediately put you in a position of weakness. But when you affirm and assert that it is a fact, and he said so many times, so it is a fact, Baba is with me, and all I have to do is follow Shrimat and handle the circumstances as they come. And it is said, victory is your birthright. So once you've become a Brahmin, once you started on this track of study, service, personal development, yoga, You are going in the opposite direction of the rest of the world. And when you're doing that, and the energy of decline of the world is really strong, then it can be tough going. So Baba says, keep up the meditation and you will acquire enough energy to handle all the things that are coming down the river to oppose you. And you have to have faith that you will get there. So many times he says, your victory is guaranteed, provided you follow Shrimat. Be with Baba and you will be victorious. Turn away from Baba and you will lose power. Why would a person turn away from Baba? Is because they're looking for support from some person or institution or place or object. But those are very perishable. And the only one support which is absolutely guaranteed is Baba. And you have to have faith that you are worth it. You know, sometimes people think, oh, well, maybe I'm not worthy. Take out that word. Of course you are worthy. And what does it mean, worthy, anyway? Think about it. Did you find God or did God find you? If you think about it deeply, you will realize that it's very, very difficult to find God. You look for him for many births, but he finds us. That's how it is. And so he finds us because he wants to find us. He can find anyone he wants. Then sometimes people say, well, why me? Why did he find me? Well, maybe you cannot see what's special about you, but Baba can see what's special about you. And you have to look at yourself through Baba's eyes and see that what he sees is what he wants. And he's very particular. So do not doubt yourself, do not doubt him. And of course, he always says, those who came into this practice in the last kalpa, they will come now. So one thing very important is nobody can push you out and nobody can force you in. It's nothing to do with anyone, whether you are with Baba or not with Baba. It's between yourself and God. So this you have to have common sense to go with the faith. Now, as I mentioned before, there are tests of faith. Because just like Baba, he's one side and the rest of the world is the other side. Well, the same thing can happen to you. You can be one side and the whole rest of the world is the other side. Whether you're in the Lokik environment or even possibly in the Alokik environment. But have faith. Check your conscience. Your conscience is a very, very good guide. And when you live according to Shrimat, your conscience gets very acute and astute, and you know exactly if you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, or what's important and what's relative to what. And you have a clean, clear conscience. If you have a clean, clear conscience, you move forward because that's very empowering. There's no guilt. Now, if someone wants to make you feel as though you're wrong or that you've done wrong, that's something that is projected onto you from an external influence, another person. It's not coming from your conscience. So faith in the self is supported a great deal by your continuous consultation with your conscience. This is your best guide. So you know what your motivations are, you know who you are, you know why you do what you do, and you know what you need. Of course, everyone is different. And we're such a very large BK family that there are lots of different cultures, lots of different backgrounds, lots of different orientations, and so you need to really know yourself, you know, who you are and what you need and what you stand for and what your values are. Because there's no such thing as universal values. What are values? It's not a list of nice words, actually. Values are what's important relative to what's not important. And each one has their own set of values, and you live by those values. And there may be other people with similar values, and you will find yourself relating to those people very well. There may be others, they're on the spiritual path, but they have values that are fairly different from yours. That's okay. There's a big spectrum. So you trust yourself, you trust the voice of your conscience, you trust that the values that are the highest values for you are good, they're right. Do not doubt yourself in these. You would not choose something that's second grade, but people are so different. They are not going to choose the same thing. They are not going to give priority to the same thing. You know, you have to trust your choice. And this is where courage begins to come in, because there will be opposition. And a lot of people, they say, well, this is called easy Raj Yoga, so then it should be easy. And why isn't it easy? Or someone once told me, sister, what is easy about easy Raj Yoga? And I laughed. I said, well, of course it's extremely difficult. This is the highest practice that anyone at any time in the Kalpa could possibly undertake. So, you know, one of the things I do is I look in dictionaries to see, because words have many meanings. And the word for easy that Baba uses is Sahaj. And the word Sahaj has a lot of different meanings. And when he talks about Sahaj Raj Yoga, he compares it and contrasts it with the yoga of the sannyasis, which he calls difficult. And there's two other words that could apply very well to Sahaj as opposed to Hatha Yoga. And of course, it's a contrast between Sahaj, where Sahaj has the meaning of you're doing this practice in the context of lots of people, family people, blood relatives, people you work with, and you're doing it in an adversarial set of circumstances, which is not easy at all. And what the sannyasis do is they say, well, we can't do this in the context of family and work and so on, and so therefore we will go to the jungles because there's no opposition. And so actually it's easier to be a sannyasi because you just leave everything. You don't have to face it all the time. You're not in an adversarial, hostile environment, and you get on with your practices. And that's the comparison between Sahaj Yoga and Hatha Yoga. Now, of course, Hatha Yoga means yoga by force. And so you have to force yourself. But then Baba says, Raj Yoga is very, very subtle. And you have to keep yourself on a level of subtlety that allows for you to be free from external influences. And the external influences are quite gross. So the more you're subtle, the more you're on a different plane from the obstacles. And so your plane of existence is Gyan and Yoga. And then all the obstacles, well, that's all drama. And it's as it should be. And the obstacles are, in many ways, tests of your faith. Tests that you're on the right track, you're doing the right thing, you are who Baba says you are, he is who he says he is, and circumstances are designed to mess you around, and that's what they're supposed to do. So when you interpret Easy Raj Yoga to mean that if you're finding it difficult, it means you're doing something wrong. No, not at all. If you're finding it difficult, it means you're moving ahead. And of course, as in any educational program, it begins easy, and as you continue, it becomes more and more difficult. So this is no different from any other. And of course, there's always more people who do it in a very easy, simple way, and less people who want to take it as far as they can. And the further along you take it, the less people there are on the track with you. Like a marathon, not everybody finishes the marathon, but lots and lots of people start it. So many people fall by the wayside, no doubt. But what about you? You want to be able to make it. You have to have faith that you will make it. And courage. What is courage? Courage is to go past all of the reasonable doubts that could come along. Well, because people like to be in their comfort zone. They have established themselves in a certain place with certain people. They manage that. They say, okay, I've done it. Let this carry on for the next 30, 40, 50 years. Okay, but you won't get so much of a sense of progress as if you are willing to embrace change. If you're willing to embrace when circumstances that were looking absolutely stable, all of a sudden they're gone. And I think we have a very good example of this with the people who live in Ukraine, and all of a sudden their house is blown up, their relatives are blown up, their life is blown up, and you're right in front of death, you're right in front of disaster, you don't necessarily have help, all you can do is turn to God. And then you may suddenly find yourself a refugee or in a hospital or lost, or there's so many things that have been happening. It's a very good example of what can happen to anyone suddenly and unexpectedly. And so you have to have courage. And this is also the one thing that the whole world has been seeing from the Ukrainian people, this incredible courage of a small country facing the military might of a huge, powerful nuclear power and just protecting their country and fighting for their life and their right. And this is a very, very wonderful metaphor for all of us, because anyone can be struck by COVID, slightly to a middle extent or very badly. Anyone can be struck by loss of job, other form of loss of health, the people who are their support system suddenly not being there. And Baba had told us so many times, be prepared for suddenly and unexpectedly. And it takes courage to be all right with a situation that's not all right. It's not all right, but then you say, okay, it is drama, and I am comfortable with it because drama is good. It might not be pleasant, but there is something in there that is for me, that is to carry me forward, that is to carry me out of my limitations. And so we have to embrace the change, and we have to take the opportunity to face our insistence on having guarantees, on everything being predictable. No, that's not what it is. And here I would think we need to talk a little bit about identity. Identity is a very important thing that Baba brings up for us. He says the identity that people normally consider as their identity is body conscious. They get their identity from their ancestors, from their birth, their nationality, their culture. All this is what you call your identity. And it is very unreliable in the world of instability that we live in now. So Baba says, I'm going to give you a different identity because it's a absolutely permanent identity. And you need to summon up courage to switch positioning yourself on your bodily identity to your spiritual identity. I mean, your support system is God, your karma, and your understanding. This is it. You're a soul, high quality soul, selected by God. You're a spiritual warrior, and whether you are in this body or not, you're still you. And your identity is determined by the quality of your relationship with yourself and with God and what those two stand for. And that's who you are. And when other things fall away or challenge you, holding on to that identity puts you in a very strong position. So when you keep yourself in a strong position and you face whatever is coming in front of you, that is courage. So what Baba talks to us about, the power to face, is very much connected with courage. You have to face yourself, face your fragility, and also face your greatness, because there is greatness in the soul. There is greatness that you had recognition of Baba. Very few people recognize God, and even fewer understand that you're walking alone with God in the midst of a lot of unreliable people and places and circumstances, but you have this power of faith that holds you on track, and then you take one step of courage after another, after another, after another. Because we can't have the life that we used to have. We cannot have the ease that we used to have. We cannot have the support we used to have. And this courage to do the right thing, to trust your conscience, to assert to yourself that I am with God whether I can feel him or not. You remember he talked about the difference between feelings and facts. And he would say, well, omnipresence is a feeling, not a fact. But having God with you is a fact, but not always a feeling. And so you need to have courage and to assert that if Baba said, I am with you, that means he is, whether I can feel him or not. And that means that what you know is actually more valid, more substantial than what you feel. Because what do you feel with? You feel things with your mind. And your mind is defined as fickle. Sometimes you feel good, sometimes you're busy feeling good, and then all of a sudden you feel bad, and nothing has changed. You just feel bad, and you were feeling good 2 seconds ago, and you don't know why. So there's a great deal of fluctuation that goes on in the mind. And if you trust your mind, then you are trusting something that is by definition constantly moving and unstable. So when we talk about this practice, it is very often called yoga of the intellect. And now in English, this word yoga of the intellect doesn't really have any meaning. In Hindi, they use the word buddhi yoga and translate that into English, yoga of the intellect. But buddhi yoga means concentration. So if you concentrate on being who you are and on being with the one that you are with, this concentration is an anchor. And the mind in the Gita is a very beautiful expression. It says, in the mind there are winds of emotion that carry you like a ship in stormy seas, buffeting you around. This is the mind. And the mind is also connected with the subconscious. And in the subconscious is where all your outstanding karmic accounts are sitting, all your demons are sitting, and every so often they will come up and snap at you or bare their teeth at you. And you have to be in that concentrated karma yogic state where you are with God, concentrated on who you are in your soul consciousness, and whatever these demons are, paper tigers, but you have to punch them on the nose anyway because they will bite. So they're not that much paper, they're real. But you have to face them and understand where they come from. And a lot of it comes from doubt, you see. An imaginary problem will emerge and you will feel it strongly, and then you will give it importance, and then it will become real because you assigned power to it, or you gave away your power to someone who was trying to influence you or manipulate you or impress you or make you doubt your own better judgment. This is just omnipresent, this sort of thing going on. And so it's very, very important to have what's also called the courage of your convictions. And be prepared that even if everyone wants to be against you, it's all right. And you don't have to be in a confrontational position vis-a-vis people who are confronting you. You see, you say, okay, I hear you, let it be, so be it. But you don't have to, get into a defensive positioning, because it's not the strong position. You need to be in your power and stand your ground. And you don't have to say much to assert, this is me, this is what I stand for, have a nice day. And you're not dependent on the people who are put there by drama to test your faith. Always understand that everything that's around you is really a test. And it's a test of your faith in yourself, your faith in your good judgment, your willingness to make mistakes and learn from them and pick yourself up and move forward. It doesn't mean that if you make a mistake, you are a mistake. No, not at all. Okay, so I think that we're getting close to the end of our time, but what I'd like to do before we go into our questions and answers is just stop for a moment and turn within and really look at the self from the angle of faith in myself, faith in my soul, faith in who I am, faith in what I am, my value, my values, my understanding. I am selected by God because He likes me. So if other people don't, it's okay. What's important? My relationship with the divine. And feel it. Even if you can't feel it, know it. Because knowing is more steady, more stable than feeling. Sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't. Doesn't mean it's not there just because you can't feel it. Like love or the fragrance of incense. Sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't, but you know it's there.